Most people think you need a 20-foot ramp just to handle 3 steps. But here's the truth. Inside the home, those ADA numbers don't actually apply. And building a ramp that long can cost you thousands you don't need to spend. Let me show you the simple way we actually choose ramp length that fits you and the home, and not just a commercial rulebook. If you choose a ramp length based only on ADA, you'll often end up with a ramp far too long for your property and far too expensive also. And if you choose a ramp length that's based only on convenience, you risk a slope that's unsafe for the person using it or for the caregiver pushing them. So when you get this part right, you make everyday access safer, smoother, and a whole lot less stressful for the family. And you can also save thousands along the way. Coming up in this video, I'll show you how to calculate the rise from those 3 steps, how to pick the right ramp length based on strength, equipment, and caregiver support, and how to avoid spending thousands on unnecessary ramp footage. Before we talk about ramp length, it helps to understand where the ADA slope rule even came from. So back in the early 90s, when the ADA was written, the whole point was to protect the public. So like malls, airports, government buildings, any place where a stranger in a wheelchair might show up with no help. So they built the slope rule for the worst case user, someone with limited upper body strength, no caregiver nearby, and a long distance to travel. It was really never designed for a 3-step porch home or for families who already know the person using the ramp. So once you see it that way, it becomes a lot easier to choose a ramp length that actually fits real life instead of a rule book built for public spaces. So what those 3 steps are actually giving us. Most standard steps are about 7 inches high, so 3 of them usually puts you right around 21 inches. Now, if you follow ADA to the letter, you take those 21 inches and turn them into a 21-foot ramp. And for a public building, that makes total sense. But in a home, a lot of times that's way too long, way too expensive, and it simply doesn't fit your property. So we use that ADA number as a baseline, a clean starting point, and then we shape the final ramp length around the person using it and the space we actually have to work with at that house. Now, this is where the numbers start to mean something real. We match the slope to the person who's going to use the ramp, their strength, their equipment, and how much help they have. Because a 21-inch rise can feel totally different for 3 different people. So for example, manual wheelchair users. If someone is pushing themselves, even a small change makes a big difference. Older adults usually start struggling around about 7 to 8 degrees of incline. And once you get to around 10 degrees, most folks just can't even get up on their own. So for someone who's trying to stay independent, we usually stretch the ramp a little bit longer. That extra length gives them the gentle slope they need to push without working their shoulders. Now for power wheelchairs and scooters, okay, that's a whole different story. Most of them can handle a steeper incline, usually anywhere from 6 to 10, 14 degrees. It just depends on your model. And that means you can safely cut the ramp length by almost maybe in half. So instead of a 21-foot ramp for a 21-inch rise, you could probably get away with a 10 to 12-foot range, depending on which model you have. If the chair is doing the work, the slope tolerance changes everything. When a caregiver is doing the pushing, we have to look at the whole picture. So for example, the user's weight, so the person in the wheelchair, the chair's weight, the caregiver's strength, and how much control they have going down the ramp. A strong caregiver with a lighter user can handle a slightly shorter ramp. But if the caregiver is on the smaller side, where the user is heavier, we'll stretch that ramp a little longer to keep everyone safe. A lot of times, the real danger isn't going up, it's accidentally picking up too much speed when you're coming down. So in that instance, sometimes we have our clients walk backwards if they cannot handle the weight and they're safe enough to do it. Otherwise, we might just say this ramp isn't going to be safe at this incline, it needs to be longer. So the ramp we choose isn't random. It's matched to the body strength, the equipment, and the type of help someone actually has day after day. The next piece is the home itself. Because even if we wanted to build a full ADA length ramp, a lot of homes, especially homes in Hawaii, they just don't have the room for it. You have tight driveways, you have small lanais, property setbacks, landscaping, 5,000 square foot lots. All of that shapes what's even possible. And in real life, most ramps for a 3-step entry end up somewhere between 8 to 14 feet. And that's totally fine as long as it matches the user we talked about earlier. Sometimes we'll make the ramp a little steeper, but still safe for the person using it. Other times we'll add a turn platform, a simple 90-degree or 180-degree turn to redirect the ramp so it fits the property. And sometimes the answer is a shorter ramp paired with a safer landing or a small porch modification. So it's never just What does the chart say? It's what does this home actually allow us to build safely? Now, if there are kids living in the home or even just visiting, we take the safety plan one step further. So kids see the ramp instantly and they think it's a toy, we can climb on it. It's a jungle gym, we can jump off of it, we can ride our skateboard down it. It's a perfect place to have fun. So we almost always recommend vertical pickets on railings. They're harder to climb, they prevent those sideways falls, and they keep little heads from getting stuck between the bars. And of course, a good non-slip surface keeps everyone safer on wet days. These little details, they actually go a long way in homes where little ones are around. Now here's the part most families don't expect. Your ramp length has a huge impact on costs. Most professional ramps run somewhere around $100 to a couple $100 per foot. So if you build the full 21-foot ADA version, you're looking at well over $2,000 to $3,000. And that's not even including the labor or shipping or any modifications that you need to do to the property for the ramp to fit. But when we match the link to the person and the home instead of the commercial rule, we usually bring that down to something in the 10 to foot range. That alone can save a family $1,500 to $3,000. And you're not cutting corners, you're building a ramp that actually makes sense for the person who'll be using it every day. Shorter ramp, shorter or smaller footprint, safer fit equals lower cost. Now here's an example for a client of ours. We had a family who needed a ramp for their 82-year-old father. Their contractor told them they had to build an ADA compliant ramp, which was going to end up being about 24 feet long, in addition to turn platforms. So each platform is about 4 to 5 feet. So that's like almost a 30-foot ramp. And it would have wiped out a big section of their garden. It also came with a big price tag, over $9,000. But when we came, we checked out, we assessed the situation. We learned that their dad used a strong power wheelchair. In addition, there were no young kids around the home, and the space beside the driveway was actually perfect for a shorter run. So we ended up building a 12-foot aluminum ramp that had a textured surface, and it fit the home perfectly. It cost less than half of the original bid, and most importantly, he could get in and out safely on his own. This is exactly why the right ramp length is never just what ADA says. It's what the person and the home actually need. I'm going to give you another real-life example of a client that had a threshold ramp for their 6-inch step up into the house. The threshold ramp was about 2 feet long or so, and then the incline of it was 10 degrees. The main users was a couple who were using walkers. One of the users needed a walker where it needed to be adapted because they had a stroke. So they had to lean more onto the walker in order to safely use it. But then that makes it harder for them to lift up and step over things. And especially when you've had a stroke, it affects your balance, affects your flexibility, affects your safety awareness. So something had to be done for this. Now, regular ankle flexion can go up to 20 degrees or so. Functional ankle flexion requires a minimum of about 10 degrees. Now, if you combine what our clients had, which was a ramp that was at 10 degrees, and you have a user whose ankle is not able to flex to 10 degrees because of a stroke, then you have a recipe for a fall. That's why it's super important to match the ramp with the user's needs. And if you're trying to figure out not just how long the ramp should be, but what kind of ramp or what makes the most sense for your home, then the next thing you want to look at is whether a wood ramp or an aluminum ramp is actually better for your situation. If you're dealing with 2 sets of stairs, not just the ones to get into the house, but another flight once you're already inside, that's where things really change. Solving the entry is one barrier, but solving movement between floors is a whole different one. That's when families usually start asking whether a vertical platform lift or a stilts lift actually makes more sense for their 2-story home. The differences matter more than people realize, especially looking ahead at 2026. So if you want to avoid fixing one problem only to create another, click right here and I'll walk you through how to choose the right option for your situation.